The new nation was in danger of falling apart due to problems under the Articles of Confederation. In May of 1787, the Philadelphia Conference convened. This conference would later be called the Constitutional Convention. Delegates looked to fix the Articles of Confederation to strengthen the central government, since weaknesses were destroying what they had fought for. The meetings took place in secret since they felt it would be easier to debate different issues if they were isolated from public and media pressures. Debates focused on commerce and economics, the power of the states and the federal government, and the relations among the states and the federal government. The new federal government that was being created or strengthened would only have power where the states were not competent on their own, which would maintain state power but still have a stronger central government. Some of the key figures at the convention included George Washington, who presided over the convention. Washington's respect and leadership skills were the reason such a convention was able to take place and have success. Benjamin Franklin's experience and wisdom brought a lot of respect to the convention, and he many times was a peacekeeper when debates got hostile. Early on in the convention, Franklin proposed that the delegates begin each morning in prayer, acknowledging that if the delegates wanted success, then they needed to be inspired by God. James Madison had many of the ideas and proposals and took notes on all debates and discussion, which earned him the nickname Father of the Constitution. Madison's notes are one of the best sources to know what took place at this convention. The weaknesses under the Articles would be solved by strengthening the federal government. The federal government got the power to coin money, fixing the problem with the continental dollar. The central government got the power to tax, which fixed the problem of not being able to raise revenue. The federal government would regulate interstate and foreign trade, fixing the disputes states had over trade, such as the dispute between Virginia and Maryland over the Chesapeake Bay. There would be a national executive to enforce laws which didn't exist under the Articles. There would also be a central court system to resolve disputes between the states, which also didn't exist under the Articles. The biggest argument at the convention dealt with how the states would be represented in the legislature or lawmaking body. The Virginia Plan proposed a legislature based on each state's population. This upset the smaller states, since the smaller states felt that the bigger states would control the new government. Therefore, the smaller states proposed the New Jersey Plan to have equal state representation regardless of population. The bigger states felt this wasn't fair since they had more people. Roger Sherman developed the Connecticut Plan, or Great Compromise, that proposed a bicameral or two-chamber legislature. There would be a Senate with two from each state, or equal state representation from the New Jersey Plan, and a House of Representatives based on each state's population that came from the Virginia Plan. This idea would create the U.S. Congress. There are some similarities between the Articles of Confederation and the Constitution. The Articles of Confederation named the nation the United States of America, and that didn't change. The states also retained all power not specifically delegated in the Articles, and that was still the case in the Constitution and was made clear in the later 10th Amendment. The Articles said that the states formed a mutual defense compact. Operation of the military changed under the Constitution, but the duty of defense of the whole nation did not change. The Articles said people moving state to state had to be treated as citizens in the new state. Similar wording goes into the Constitution. The General Welfare Clause was carried directly from the Articles of Confederation. Remember that this clause was intended to mean only where the states were not competent on their own. Remember, under the Articles, the states were sovereign. So it would be false to say that the Constitution was a whole new document. Instead of sending numerous amendments to the Articles of Confederation to the states for ratification, they sent them in one big package, the whole new Constitution. It made no sense to send 20, 30, or 50 amendments to be voted on separately. After the Constitutional Convention finished on September 17, 1787, it sent its work to the Confederation Congress, which was then meeting in New York City. At this point, the Constitution was nothing more than a mere recommendation. September 28, 1787, the Confederation Congress approved the Constitution and sent it to state conventions for ratification. It's important to understand that it didn't go directly from the Constitutional Convention to the states bypassing the Congress. It went from the convention to the Congress for approval before going to the states for ratification. The Confederation Congress unanimously approved the Constitution to go to the state legislatures. Ratification, or approval, wouldn't be the easiest thing to accomplish. The Federalists were those who supported the new Constitution, while those against the Constitution were called the Anti-Federalists. The Federalists felt that the new Constitution would fix the problems from the Articles of Confederation and give the new government the power where the states weren't competent on their own. The Anti-Federalists feared that once a national government was given power, it would look to increase that power over time. The Anti-Federalists were also fearful that rights could be violated since there wasn't a Bill of Rights. The Federalists said that the Constitution binded the federal government and it did not have the powers that weren't given to it by the Constitution, and therefore the states and people didn't have to worry about national power. The Federalist Papers were a collection of 85 articles written by James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and John Jay supporting the Constitution. In the end, the Federalists promised to put a Bill of Rights onto the Constitution once it was ratified, which they did, and the first 10 amendments were ratified to the Constitution in 1791.